Hello, everybody. So I want to make a quick commentary today on StoneCo because there's two good pieces of news today. One of them is the buyback, and the other one is a very hefty Investor Day presentation that just dropped, and it's filled with details. So let me go ahead and cover the two pieces of news for StoneCo. So the first good news is StoneCo announced a share repurchase program of up to 1 billion reais. And so you may say, oh, why do you think it's a good news that they repurchase stock? Well, two reasons. First of all, StoneCo is highly undervalued. It is so undervalued, it's not even funny, right? It's in the top two of all of the stocks that I analyzed, well over 50 stocks in the top two growth stocks, the most undervalued. That's point number one. And then point number two, StoneCo has no problem for growing. They have no problem with growth. They're growing at 40% forward growth predicted. I think it's going to be higher than that, but they're well above my 30% threshold. The growth is doing great. So growth is doing great. We got a lot of cash on the balance sheet, 1.02 billion USD of cash on the balance sheet, and the shares are very cheap. And so I think it's a wonderful thing that they announce a buyback of 1 billion reais. By the way, that's $205 million, almost $206 million equivalent. And at the current market cap, and keep in mind, the stock ran up about 30% compared to a week ago. But at the current market cap, that would be about 5% of the float, a little more than 5% of the float. So that is a gift to the shareholders. And keep in mind, they'll have 800 million USD left in the bank, even if they spend 200 million on the buyback. So again, this is not hindering any of their growth plans, and I'm very happy to see this buyback. Now, to the meaty part of the video, to the bigger part of the video is the Investor Day deck. And I can't pretend to cover it all. In fact, I probably need 10 videos to cover it all because the deck that they dropped is insane. It is 454 slides and it has so much detail, and you can't help but get the sense that this new CEO is on a mission to make StoneCo much bigger than just a take-rate business for medium-sized businesses in Brazil. It's much more than a payment platform, and I'll just show you some of the highlights, some of the things that I found the most interesting in that investor deck. I highly recommend that you download it. I will make multiple videos on this deck. Keep in mind, 354 slides of content. Very impressive in my view. So first of all, the mission. They've changed their mission. Their mission is one. It's to serve Brazilian entrepreneurs, transforming their dreams into results. You can see it's a much broader mission than just talking about payments. StoneCo is doing much more than payments. Important. How do the clients see StoneCo, STNE? We often talk about StoneCo or STNE, but STNE is actually free customer-facing companies. The bulk of the business is SMB companies, and they most likely will be dealing with the StoneCo terminal and the Stone logo and the Stone we all know. Now, they did the acquisition of Links a few years back, you may remember, and with that, they acquired medium-sized businesses and large businesses. Large businesses and medium-sized businesses are still an important take-rate business for StoneCo, but they are marketed, this part of the business is marketed as Links. And then you may have heard in the call, they say with Brazilian accent, it's always fun. They say, oh, super conta ton and ton. So you have the ton business. The ton business is their micro payments business. Micro payments business is revenue up to 15,000 reais, which is a revenue up to 3,000 a month, roughly, which, keep in mind, it's revenue, not profits. So these are micro businesses like street vendors, small, very, very tiny shops. They are very common in Brazil. They estimate more than 11 million businesses are micro businesses in Brazil. The ton part of the business is where they compete with Mercado Libre. They have competition from Mercado Libre there. As far as the SMBs goes and the large businesses, the competition is more against PagSeguro. But PagSeguro is the second player in the space. I would argue StoneCo is a better player. And even if it's a duopoly, you'll see the market is big enough for the two of them Let's talk about their opportunity a little bit. They highlight their opportunity. And so they see a revenue pool total of $100 billion of revenue that is up for grabs among the different payments company. And their current revenue is 5 billion reais. And they are seeing 100 billion reais. That's not USD, that's reais. So 20 billion USD revenue. So they could technically get 20 times bigger if they were to capture all of that opportunity. Of course, they won't. They're going to share quite a bit of that opportunity with the other players. But this is a business who in 4 years, we're talking less than 4 years, the revenue can easily 5x in my view, easily. And we'll see. This is pretty close to their guidance. But their guidance, they gave it a little different than what I usually like. I'll get to that in a second. Anyways, they have ambitious targets, and it is a very large total addressable market. Let's talk about the business right now. So the business today is mostly a payments business, and they have a little bit of a banking activity with small businesses, with small size businesses. That's the business today. The business that their grand vision, where they're trying to get to today, is, I'm going to call this the Nubank of businesses of Brazil aside from large business. So the Nubank of micro to medium-sized businesses in Brazil is the vision that I get. And they have a clear plan as to how they want to get into each category, right? The software business, I often talk about their software business acquisition being meaningless to the business. They want the software business to become very meaningless. We know the credit has not even begun to be restarted. They're about to restart credit. Banking, they made a few steps with bankings. They have a debit card for small businesses in banking. They made a few inroads into that. They want to get much more into this. They view their business as a multifaceted business that does payments, banking, software, and credit. And today, the business is essentially mostly payments, but in my view today, you're not even paying fair price for a payments business. So when you see the vision of where they're headed, in my view, this is going to be a much larger business, much larger business. They are distributed their product if you followed StoneCo for a long time. So they have a few digital channels where people can just buy the StoneCo terminal and become clients. But much of their sales are about StoneCo hubs and StoneCo sales staff, and they go into different communities, different cities, and try to sell the product to small business owners. Actually, about 80 slides in the presentation that I'm not going to cover in this video is about how they are growing so fast. What are their sales tactics? How do they do to get more businesses to sign up to the StoneCo permanent terminal and move away from cash and move into the 21st century? This type of businesses really compete against cash rather than even competing against each other. In my view, the market is so big, and they also have strategic partners, 450. And they have their whole method of selling, which is very interesting and I think is very culturally specific to Brazil. I highly recommend that you look at how they sell these products. There's 80 slides worth of it. So moving on to, I think what's going to be a big area for them is the micro business area. So micro business are, again, street vendors, somebody selling hats on the beach. That's essentially, and other things, but that's street vendors. Very common, 11.6 million potential customers in this segment. And they're offering kind of a low-cost version of the STNE system for small and medium-sized businesses. For micro businesses, they're offering a low-cost version. You can see it's 0.79%. Quite low cost, and they do everything to go after this market. And of course, it's a market that's still predominantly cash, and they're trying to go after this market. And this, when I see that they're trying to go towards a market where really the micro entrepreneur is often undistinguishable from the family, or undistinguishable from the person, where the person and the business are one, right? They go after these very micro businesses, something we're not used to seeing in the West. But this is why it's important to advertise to the masses, to do mass market advertising. You may remember, I've raised a few views before about their advertising of Big Brother Brazil and why they would want to be the official sponsor of Big Brother Brazil. And Big Brother Brazil, there's money involved, and whenever somebody wins money, you can see a giant StoneCo payment terminal and people partying with Brazilian music and money falling into the StoneCo terminal. The reason why they do that is why? Because they have 40 million regular viewers of Big Brother Brazil. It's the biggest show in Brazil. And because the individual entrepreneur is first and foremost an individual who just happens to be so intermingled with its business, with their business, that they are likely to see this advertising. They're likely to see this advertisement, if that makes some sense. So they're not using the traditional channels to advertise their product. They're using really Brazil-specific channels to advertise their products and get people to use the services. I think the micro business is really probably likely, based on what they say, a very under-penetrated business for them. High level of informality. See, there it says right here, informal businesses, no business tax ID. So it's easy to imagine that if you're an informal business, you run everything all at once, and you're almost targeting this to private individuals, even though informally they run a business. I think this is a major area for them. As you go through the presentation, and this is probably 60 or 70 slides that I've tried to do screenshots of to tell you the general feel that I get. This requires many videos, but where they're headed, in my view, is they want to be the new bank for micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in Brazil. They are taking that route. And so what does that mean? That means managing the money in with, checkout, payment terminals, pay on phone, WhatsApp Pay, marketplaces. That means managing the money out, with your cards, Pix, which is the Central Bank of Brazil payment system, withdrawing cash, paying your taxes, paying your suppliers. So they want to manage that part too with the STNE system. And they also want to manage your working capital, your accounts, and even invest. So investing, right? So that's kind of your new bank, or in the US, your SoFi, for running a small business, and the integration of their hardware with their software, with their payment rails, with their banking rails, with their ERP system, with their point of sales tool, right, which allows them to actually price their products and advertise their product. All of that is operated in one central system, which allows them to do everything from paying employees, purchasing inventory, managing the online store, right? Setting your online store, closing your cash register at the end of the day, charging your clients, raising funds because it's a bank. Creating invoices. So they are really going for this very holistic operating system for small businesses, which is very similar to what Square is trying to do in the United States, but you're paying a fraction of the price for that stock compared to what one may be paying for Square. And Square is a little distracted with the Cash App. You see no distraction with StoneCo, because they don't try to be what they're not. They don't try to be Nubank. They are StoneCo. And so you can see some looks, right? So the payment terminal is what got them started, gives a receipt, makes it all nice and legal. For these businesses, professional at least, but they do other things. Like this is what they're slowly relaunching. This is a preview of what they're going to have. Is you run this is an example of a restaurant. You run your restaurant entirely on StoneCo. Well, you may get a loan offer, right? And then you get the loan. The loan is in your StoneCo banking account, and they are pushing an innovative repayment system where a percentage of your sales receipt is taken away to pay back the loan. So that's one of the things that they're planning on introducing. You have other things like because a lot of these small businesses have employees, you have their management system where the owner, the finance manager, and the cashier can all connect to the same system, but different levels of access can be granted within the software. So that's a great focus on that software. And then, of course, what else do they have? Well, they provide a business credit card, right? A business credit card or debit card, they provide that to the people running the business, and you can use the business card in order to pay for your different purchases and your different services, etc. So this is a business that's highly holistic and that is going after a broad view of a market. They're going after a holistic value proposition. They're not doing just payments. They're trying to grow horizontally and vertically in so many different parts of the business. And I'll conclude with this. Which is the outlook. I usually don't use net income at all in my valuation. I prefer to look at percentage of sales, which for them would be revenue, right? So it would be their take rate. I could have calculated that, but I did not. I reused their preferred and their advertised number, which is they've given us a number for net income in 2027. By the end of 2027, full year 2027, they expect 4.3 billion reais in net income. Okay, so that's $860 million USD of net income by the end of 2027. As a reminder, today, let's call it the end of 2023, net income trailing 12 months was 203 million. So they are predicting over a 4x in net income in under 4 years. At the current PE, the earnings, the net income being 203 million, the current PE for the company is trading a tad above 4 billion USD. The current price to earnings ratio is a 20 times. That's dirt cheap. Why is that dirt cheap? That's dirt cheap because the analysts are predicting 3 years forward long-term growth EPS at 56%. And so when I calculate the V-PEG ratio, a back-of-a-napkin PEG ratio, I'm getting a 0.35 on the PEG ratio. That's way too low. You may be well aware that a good PEG ratio is considered to be under 1. So right now, the valuation on a P ratio is extremely depressed. But let's assume, and I don't think that's going to be the case, but let's assume that this multiple stays depressed into 2027, and this is a stock that also trades at 20 times net income in 2027. Well, if you assume that, the growth in the net income would equal the growth in the stock price, right? It would be the same. So assuming it's a 4x in net income that they're predicting in 4 years, that would mean the stock could perhaps be a 4x in under 4 years from current levels. Keeping in mind, I took the $13 stock price. I didn't took the $10 for stock price from more than a week ago. So outstanding returns. Not a lot of stocks are guiding like that. If you do this calculation, not a lot of stocks are guiding like that. It's a big position for me. Do I think they're going to, outpace that growth? Well, I'm not going to make any pronostics. I think it would be an outstanding return if they achieved that. What I can tell you is that for me, this is a longer term hold than 4 years. I don't think this is a 10-year hold because they're only focusing in Brazil. I think at some point they will have to focus on Latin America, and we'll see. This is something that they start signaling to us in 2026 or 2027. But to me, this is a 5 to 10-year hold roughly. So it's past my horizon. So within my time horizon, they are telling us that they see net income 4x in less than 4 years. That's outstanding outlook. That's outstanding guidance. I would expect the stock to be up quite a bit tomorrow. We will see. We will see what the market does. Market doesn't really make sense ever in the short run. It only makes sense in the long run of these movements. Anyways, this was not investment advice. This is just entertainment. I hope you were entertained. I appreciate your likes. I appreciate your subscriptions to my channel and your comments. And if you follow me on Twitter, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.